You're listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1590 WPSL. Got to get used to this station change. If you're down here in Florida, you can hear us on WPSL Port St. Lucie, and we're still trying to reassess and understand exactly what the bank confiscation in Cyprus is all about. I'm back with Andy Hoffman. We did a special report yesterday on Sunday. Andy, how are you?
I am exhausted. It's been a long weekend.
Boy, has it ever, huh?
And it's not going to get any easier for the majority of the world after this, financial 9/11, as I'm calling it, was unleashed by the European financial leaders this weekend.
That it was. But, Americans, be happy. My buddies at Starbucks didn't know a thing about it. They were completely oblivious. And most Americans don't think it has anything to do with them.
That's right. They're only going to take money from people in tiny little places in Europe. Of course, the people at Starbucks don't even know, as you say, what happened. But, this is just, you go back to 2008, when the whole system started to fall apart. And increasingly, you've seen financial repression across the world as the economies get weaker and the governments become more bankrupt. And you're going to see more of it. This is, anyone who has half an eye open should realize, that what we've been saying all along about keeping your money out of the system, this is exactly what we're talking about.
And this is exactly why. This isn't really a surprise to you or I, Andy. Let's face it. You knew it was going to come down to this at some point because, as Lady Margaret Thatcher said about socialism, they've run out of other people's money. Now they just have to steal the savers, whether it's retirement, whether it's stocks, whatever it is. Remember back when MF Global blew up, Andy? Ann Barnhart, we both know, commodities broker, very successful hedging business for farmers and ranchers. She dissolved the company because she said, I can't keep your money safe anymore. This is more of what's going to happen, and it's going to keep on happening around the world.
We haven't heard much from Ann Barnhart lately, and we all know well that she has said, I have cheated on my taxes, and I don't care who knows it, and I expect to go to prison. And that's the last I've heard from her. So I'm just looking now. Someone's writing, has she been arrested? No one knows. But, she certainly did a real service for the world's citizens by coming out and being so outspoken about the crimes that she saw in her business from the banks.
Yeah, and she had a ringside seat to it. And now we're just seeing a furtherance of it. Here they're stealing $5.8 billion instead of $1.6. But you know what? No one's going to jail over this. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to be ostracized, and life will go on. Yeah,
except that no matter what happens, the economies will continue to get worse. So life goes on. But people will still lose their jobs, and inflation will only get worse. And if there was any doubt about interest rates ever going higher, the end of QE and all that stuff, I think it's been soundly quashed out now, because this event clearly puts back into play just how bad the European financial situation is. And I expect on Wednesday the Fed to reiterate strongly that they're not going anywhere on the zero interest rates. And at some point, the whole game of trying to pretend gold should be lower because of the end of QE is just going to blow up in their face. Maybe it's Jim Sinclair making the best call of all time when he said on Thursday, gold's about to go through 1,600 and never look back.
Hey, remember what Jim said in 2000, I think it was. He made the call that by 2008, it would be over 1,500. I think that was the call, or 1,600.
Oh, come on, you steal my thunder, because my piece is coming out tomorrow, Tuesday, called Sinclair's 1650 Call. I believe it was about a 2-year period. I think he said in early 2009, that by early 2011, it would be 1650. And at the time, it was about 900. And he just missed by a few months. And that's what I'm writing about tomorrow, because Wednesday is his big meeting in New York for the public.
I have a friend going there who's going to report back. I'm going to interview him about the interview. But I think it's important. I would be up there myself, but I'm traveling too much now, and I just can't get the energy to go up to Manhattan for a day. I just really don't. And it's cold. They're getting a freaking snowstorm there, a winter storm again. What do I need that place for, Andy?
Well, I'm very happy to be, out here in Colorado myself, although our weather can be extremely variable as well, just not as nasty as up there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they're getting it, and Westchester, they're getting like 3 to 6 inches. I just don't want to be there. Thank you very much. A lot of what Sinclair says, honestly, is over my head because it's got an insight into financial markets. Frankly, I just don't have, Andy. I mean, I don't have that. I haven't been in them my whole life. I've kind of always been an observer, and a lot of what he says is from an insider's viewpoint. But if you read it, it's totally consistent, makes complete sense, and he pretty much nailed this thing from the get-go.
Right. And, for someone like myself who has been following him for 11 years, and in fact, I went to see him speak in such a forum in January of 2004 down in Florida. No one understands exactly what he's saying. And believe me, people ask, how do you get to your numbers? Why do you make these calls? And he will never tell you because he keeps that very close to the vest. But he, as you said before, has been, the best long-term prognosticator of this sector and even medium term. And this is the first time he's ever made a short-term call that I've ever seen. And so far it looks dead on.
It's over 1,600 now. And let's see what the price is on Kitco.com. Looking at around 1,606. They've been monkeying with it, but I have a feeling right after the COMEX closes, it's going back up. We'll see. But I think this is the point where the demand for the physical stuff really decimates the paper. And then the paper market really, it either dies or it becomes a cash market because they're going to up, they're going to try everything they can. They're going to up the margin requirements and all sorts of other stuff, the collateral requirements. And finally, they'll get to the point where it's just a cash market.
Right, and that's exactly what he has said, and that's what I've said. I said ultimately it will go away because people will be scared of it. I mean, why would you go in this market where you always lose money? They'll try all the tricks, as you say. They'll raise margins. Now they've been lowering margins and attacking in counterintuitively. Who even knows how that works? But the fact is, what just happened in Cyprus literally just happened this weekend. And the cartel can be in there capping gold today at 1.0% all day. But the fact is, starting today, there's going to be millions of Europeans, let alone people in other parts of the world with financially repressive governments, who are going to want to get out of the system and into real money. And so if Sinclair is talking about the price never going back below 1,600, it's probably because of this, financial Pearl Harbor, as Max Kaiser calls it. Changing the views of thousands of millions of people about, what the value of savings is in the bank.
Hey, and don't forget, the Europeans are not quite as dumbed down as Americans, and you can't expect everything to happen the next day, although shockwaves are definitely being felt, but they have to figure out what to do. They're going through a thought process that you and I went through long ago, Andy, and they're going to come up with the same conclusions that you and I came up with about the future of the Western monetary system. And look, I'm going to give you a great quote for your newsletter. You're going to like this one. It's simple. This is a confidence-shattering event. Confidence is the mother's milk of a fiat currency system and a fractional reserve banking system. And once that confidence dries up, it's all over.
Okay, so I didn't recall all of that in my head. You'll have to email afterwards.
The good one, though, huh? I worked on it for you.
It works perfectly. And, it is about confidence. And we've talked, you and I, before about how long it took for some of these decisions for us to make. I mean, for instance, my thought process of disavowing all the 20 years of financial analysis, that was my life. I mean, I'm a CFA. I spent years as a sell-side analyst, a buy-side analyst, and I had to disavow that, realizing that the world doesn't work anymore the way it used to, the markets. And I also had to disavow my thoughts about holding gold in a third party and sending it up to Brinks. I mean, these decisions don't always happen overnight. But the fact is, some decisions are quicker than others. And if you're someone in one of the pigs nations that's in a similar financial situation as Cyprus, you're going to make that decision very quickly to get out of the system. And by the way, the reason that Cyprus's banking system is so bad is because of all the loans to Greece.
Yes. Yes, of course. Yeah, like why don't you just buy a book passage on the Titanic? It's really luxurious, man. You'll enjoy the ride and don't worry about any of those icebergs. So they've been buying the debt even after Greece started going down the tubes, and all the money that's there, a lot of dirty money in Cyprus. There was an article today, I read it, and Sinclair warned about it. It said Putin is pissed. He said it was unprofessional what they did, which means something wholly different in Russian than it does in English. But you could be sure that his buddies, probably himself, they've got funds on deposit there. They're none too happy with the IMF, with the ECB, or the U.S., because none of this happened without the Federal Reserve being involved in it. None of it.
Right. And, we've also talked about how Putin may be the person on earth who hates America the most. And he's certainly going to hate us a bit more after this. And he has a lot more leverage on us than he used to, because Russia's a wealthy nation these days and we're not. And then we have to just, finally we have to get back to why all this is happening, because, they could have printed this money in a second, 13 billion euros. Why did they do this? Why are they instituting a bank run? Why are they causing chaos? And, actually, Bill Holter wrote an awesome article about this morning called "They Can't Undo This," that everyone should read, because obviously behind the curtains, the beginning of the end of the Euro Union and the Euro currency is coming. And anyone who doesn't use this as a major warning to get your affairs in order before this happens is going to find themselves financially destitute.
Yeah, I'm buying more food right now, too, because, look, all the stuff that Homeland Security is doing, the bullets, the tanks, everything now totally makes sense. I think this was an implosion of the financial system, or a demolition of it, by not printing that money up and allowing depositors to get hit. This was deliberate. There's no question. They want to bring the system down. You could say it's world governance, one world government. I don't know why, but I'm telling you, and you're basically hinting at it, this is a deliberate act of war against you.
That's right, a deliberate act of financial war. People, look at Greece, who, as we speak, because again, no one even realized that Cyprus was having their bailout discussions, aside from an article or two here and there. Greece is right in the middle of another discussion as we speak, because they need another bailout, and it's not in the newspapers, aside from one article or two. Greece has $500 billion of debt. Greece is in a far worse financial situation than Cyprus and has a far higher debt to GDP. And their economy is falling at, 5 or 10% a year right now, with 50 or 60% youth unemployment, and soccer players getting kicked out of the league because they're saluting Hitler.
Yeah, I saw that.
Trust me, this is going to happen in Greece any day now. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in a week or a month that this exact same thing happens. And when that happens, then it's really all over, because they won't be able to manage it the way they're managing it today. You will see the 5% increase in gold, and you'll see the 10% decrease in Spanish and Greek and stocks and French stocks and all that. Just a matter of time. And if anyone thinks that we can get through 2013 without more of these Cyprus events, they are crazy.
Oh, yeah. And this was all predicted, too, by the way. You and I said it, but every person out there that you and I follow has been saying the same thing, almost to the point where it's an echo chamber. But there was no avoiding it. Maybe they figure if we just start the cascade, we can just be done with it already and go on to the next system. But these things aren't controllable, and you don't know what the unintended consequences are going to be.
Yeah. And I wish we can get some of the people who are not part of our core group of good, smart people to think, why on earth would this tiny little nation be forced to give a tiny bit of money back to get printed money? The only reason is to cause the panic to start, because they know that the system is about to go down and they want to do it their way, at least try to do it their way.
Yeah, like Frank Sinatra did it my way.
Right.
That's Ben Bernanke. That'll be the new theme song of the Federal Reserve. I killed the economy my way. So it's a shame, and I don't know if we're going to be better off when it happens or worse off. I think for a while, worse off, maybe in the long run. We'll
all be worse off for a long time to come. Yes, if you have prepared, you'll be better off than most. But, the world is going to pay the piper now for 40 years of being off the gold standard. And by the way, I don't know what's going to happen Wednesday, which Sinclair strategically picked his meeting, the day that the Fed has their meeting, their FOMC meeting. But I sense that something quite interesting could come out of that meeting. And, just everyone beware of what's coming in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll be interviewing somebody who attends that meeting, a good friend of the show, Ed, and we'll get to the bottom of it right away. But yeah, there's something significant coming, and we've felt this for months. We really have, and I hate to keep reiterating it, Andy, but maybe one new person will hear what you're saying, and you'll take it to heart, and you'll actually do something. That's really all that we can hope for.
Absolutely. That's what I've been writing, these free missives, and now fortunately doing it for Miles Franklin for almost 10 years now. And, God bless what you're doing too. I think it's making a big impact.
I totally agree. Well, on that note, Andy, I know you got an appointment. You got to get going. We will talk to you next week, or I might just hit you up on Wednesday after, and I'll get Ed on there, and he'll kind of debrief us about what happened.
Okay, great.
All right. You be well.
You too.